All right, so let's talk about Notre Dame here because that's been a big discussion all day. Some people calling them the biggest free agent out there right now, whether you're the Big Ten, whether you're the SEC, or if you're another conference saying, look, we need you to stay relevant. What happens to Notre Dame over the next coming months and years?
I think you could make a case both the fact that they would be the most desired free agent, if you will, if you want to call them that, because they're an independent, or potentially they could be looking at the landscape changing in front of their eyes, and they've got to make a decision whether or not they want to remain independent. Now, if you look at the ACC grant of rights for all those schools, and Notre Dame is softly affiliated with the ACC because of the 5 games they play per season in football, as well as all the other sports, that's not up till 2036. The ACC had to beg ESPN to take them and basically have the grant of rights for that long a period of time. But that's not the deal for Notre Dame because they've got their deal for football, at least their home games, with NBC Sports, and that deal comes up sooner. So there is probably the ability for Notre Dame, if they want to opt out of their agreement with NBC Sports, potentially early. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm speculating here, or wait till it comes up, I believe, in 2025. Now, if that's the case, now you're looking at other partners, potentially Fox, potentially whoever else will be bidding on you. But you also have the potential to saying, why not just join a conference then? And then instead of trying to put together this East Coast to West Coast schedule like we've done for a long time as an independent, we've already got the inventory, the ability to do that within the Big Ten. And oh, by the way, we're making 70 plus million a year from that TV rights deal, which would dwarf what they're making right now between their cut from the ACC as well as what they're getting from NBC Sports. So I do think there's going to be a lot of conferences who are picking up the phone and calling and saying, hey, USC and UCLA just moved. We typically see a snowball effect, a lot of momentum start to build. We see more teams want to take up the opportunity to go ahead and move. I'm sure they're calling Notre Dame, but I'm sure Notre Dame's sitting there listening too, wondering, is this going to turn into 2 super conferences? And if it does, are we going to be on the outside looking in? Maybe it is time to start thinking about joining a conference. Geographically speaking, and given their history with their scheduling, it makes the most sense probably to join a conference like the Big Ten.
If we're looking at 2 super conferences right now, is the only way for these other conferences or these other schools to create a 3rd super conference? Is that eventually what we're looking at here?
No. The ACC, SEC geographically makes sense for those 2 to work together. I mean, here's the reality. There's such a discrepancy between what the SEC currently is making, what the Big Ten will be making in comparison to the Pac-12, ACC, and Big 12. It just is what it is. And money is really what all these schools now and all these brands are really looking for. The question is, which ones do the SEC and Big Ten want? You know, if they really wanted Oregon and Washington, they would have asked them the first time around. It wouldn't just be USC and UCLA. Instead, it'd be USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. So it really now becomes what the rest of some of these schools, whether it's in the Pac-12 or ACC, when you're talking about Florida State and Miami, want to do. I don't see there being room for a 3rd super conference. I think this will end up being 2 super conferences, very similar to how we look at the NFL with the NFC and AFC, and then they'll play off for a Super Bowl, or in this case, they'll play off for a national championship at some point in the future.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.